I'm 79 years old now. If you're watching this, sitting there with your coffee or whatever it is you hold on to in the quiet of your mornings, I want to say something right at the start. What I'm about to share, it might settle into you in a way that's uncomfortable, not because it's harsh or meant to unsettle, but because it touches on those hidden corners we don't always look at, the ones where we've been carrying things without naming them. So if you need to pause, do. I'll be here when you come back. You know, for most of my life, I believed that being good meant doing what was expected. It was a simple thought, wasn't it? The kind that gets woven into you early on, like the hem of a shirt you don't notice until it starts to fray. Being good, showing up on time, saying the right things, choosing the path that kept everyone at ease. Responsible. That's the word I clung to. Responsible for the family's peace, for the neighbors' nods, for the steady rhythm of days that didn't raise questions. And in all those years, I never once stopped to ask, what if that goodness was just a shape I poured myself into without ever checking if it fit me? It started so quietly, you see. Back when I was a girl in that small house on Elm Street with the lace curtains my mother starched every Sunday. She'd say, "We do what's right, dear. We don't make waves." And right meant helping with the dishes before anyone asked, meaning yes to the boy who was steady and kind, even if his laugh didn't quite reach me. My father, with his calloused hands from the mill, would nod along, approval in the way he'd pat my shoulder after a report card came home with all the checks in the proper boxes. It wasn't loud, this shaping. No one sat me down and demanded it. It was in the air we breathed, the cultural hum of a town where women married young and men provided, where dreams were polite things you mentioned over tea, but never chased if they pulled you off the sidewalk. And woven through it all, that soft fear of judgment. What would they say if I said no? If I chose the art classes over the typing course, or stayed in the city after college instead of coming home to marry? Better to blend in, better to be the one who didn't disappoint. Decades passed like that. I married at 22 to a man who was good with numbers and better with silences. We built a life in a brick house with a yard just big enough for the children, 2 of them, a boy and a girl, who grew up with packed lunches and bedtime stories I read from books I'd borrowed, never bought for myself. My days filled with the obligations that came so naturally, the PTA meetings where I volunteered for the bake sale every year, the church suppers where I arranged the tables just so. Work? Oh, I had that too. A job at the library, shelving books I loved but rarely had time to open. It was all for them, you understand, for the family's stability, for the community's quiet approval. I shaped myself around it like clay around a mold, smiling at the right moments, swallowing the questions that bubbled up late at night. Is this enough? No, that wasn't the question. The question was always, have I done enough for them? And in those shapes I made, I found a kind of comfort, or so I told myself. The praise was gentle. "You're such a rock, Margaret." My name is Margaret, by the way. They'd say it at holidays over plates of turkey and pie, and I'd feel that warmth spread like sunlight on chilled skin. But over time, over all those years, it started to feel like I was living in someone else's outline. My choices deferred to the calendar of others, vacations planned around school schedules, evenings spent at soccer games instead of wandering the galleries downtown that I'd pass on my way home. Desires? They were small things, tucked away like letters in a drawer. The watercolor set I bought in my 30s and used twice before it gathered dust. The trip to the coast I mentioned once in passing, but let go when the car needed repairs and the kids needed new shoes. postponed, always. Not because I couldn't, but because it felt selfish, and selfish wasn't for people like me. There was no thunderclap for the realization, no crisis that shook the foundations. It came on a Tuesday afternoon, I think, late summer, the kind where the air hangs heavy with the scent of cut grass. I was in the garden, kneeling by the roses I'd planted for no reason other than they reminded me of my grandmother's porch. The children were grown and gone by then, their rooms half-empty echoes. My husband, God rest him, he'd passed 2 years before, quietly, in his sleep. And I was there, pulling weeds that had crept in overnight, my hands in the soil, feeling the earth cool against my palms. Something shifted then. Not a voice, not a flood of tears, just a stillness. I looked up at the house, at the windows I'd washed 1,000 times, and thought, this is mine now, all of it. But whose life had filled it? I sat back on my heels, dirt under my nails, and for the first time I saw the absence, not of people, but of me. The me who'd wanted to learn Italian from those dog-eared phrase books, who'd dreamed of sketching the cliffs in Maine, who'd wondered, in the hush of midnight, what it might feel like to say yes to something that was only for her. That absence, it's the hardest part to name. Invisible, that's the word that comes closest. Not in the eyes of others. They saw me, the reliable one, the one who remembered birthdays and sent cards. But to myself, I'd become a shadow moving through my own days, disconnected, like a hand that reaches for a cup but forgets the warmth of the tea inside. Absent. I'd been absent from the moments that could have been mine, the hesitation before saying yes to the safe job, the quiet mornings I filled with laundry instead of pages from a novel I'd leave open on the counter. It wasn't anger that came with that understanding, just a deep, settling ache, like realizing you've been holding your breath for so long you've forgotten what air tastes like. The regrets, they're not the loud ones, the what-ifs that scream in the dark. Mine are softer, like echoes in an empty hall. The painting class I signed up for in 1972, but dropped after the first session because the babysitter canceled and I didn't want to burden anyone by rescheduling. The journal I started in my 40s, leather-bound with pages meant for the stories I'd turn over in my mind during drives to the grocery, but it sits half-filled, the ink faded now. Or the evenings I spent mending socks when what I craved was the solitude of a walk alone under the streetlights, letting my thoughts unspool without interruption. Small deferrals, each one a thread pulled loose, and the desire to speak up at that dinner with friends when the conversation turned to dreams deferred, and I smiled and nodded, but inside I wondered why I'd never shared my own, why I'd let them stay buried like seeds that never saw sun. Have you ever caught yourself in a mirror, not recognizing the shape looking back? Not the lines or the gray, but the way the shoulders curve, as if carrying an invisible load. Or lain awake, tracing the ceiling cracks, and asked, when did I last choose something that was only mine? It took time for the understanding to settle, years really, sitting with that quiet in the garden, then in the armchair by the window, watching seasons turn without me directing them. And slowly, what emerged wasn't blame for them or for the girl I was, but a clarity. Fulfillment, it isn't in the approvals we chase, the nods from faces that fade. It's in the honesty of turning toward yourself, even if it's late, even if the steps are small and halting. Living with that honesty means acknowledging the shape you've made and gently, without force, beginning to reshape it, not to catch up, but to inhabit it, to feel the fit at last. I don't say this to urge you toward anything. This is just my confession, spoken into this little lens because the words needed air. Time moves on, you know. It slips through the hours whether we turn toward it or not. The days stack up, soft and relentless, and if we wait for permission, for the right moment, the understanding nod, it leads to that quiet regret, the kind that sits with you in the garden, in the hush of an afternoon, whispering what might have been. But even now, at 79, there's a kind of peace in naming it, in saying it aloud. Thank you for listening. If it lingers with you, let it.